You can start arguing now whether these guys are melodic death metal or metalcore.
They're gonna fight again, just let them out.
Regardless, today we are ranking the albums of Darkest Hour, and we're starting with The Mark of Judas in 2000. I gotta say, this album has held up extremely well over the years and continues to be among my favorites. So many great songs right from the jump with the soul of the savior, amazing riffs, killer opener that straddles the line between, again, metalcore and melodeath, already earning the moniker of American Gothenburg. Also very raw and gritty in terms of production, like many bands in the genre at this time. Pretty damn consistent. Other great songs here: A Blessing in a Tragedy, The Legacy, and Eclipse. I also love the little acoustic interludes that are scattered throughout. I will say that the second half is slightly weaker than the first, and the album probably could have been trimmed down just a little bit, but otherwise, one of my favorites already. It's going to fantastic. They followed that up with So Sedated, So Secure in 2001. Just a year later, and unfortunately I consider this to be a much weaker outing than the debut. I remember being pretty disappointed listening to this one after how much I loved Mark of Judas, and I know some people are going to strongly disagree with that, but hey, you can't please everyone. That's what the comment section is for.
Let me tell you, you are dead wrong.
It starts off relatively strong with an epitaph and the title track, but something about the production is just not as good, and the songs seem less memorable, with very little that has stood out to me, even after now like 2 decades of listening to this. That said, The Hollow continues to be one of my all-time favorite tracks from the band, but really beyond that, there's just not a lot that I love. It's not one of the albums I continue to come back to when I'm in the mood for Darkest Hour, and frankly, I find it a little bit boring, so it's going to okay tier. Then we got Hidden Hands of a Sadist Nation in 2003. Now, I know that some people absolutely love this album and list it as their favorite, but I am not one of those people.
All you want, my dear, is a contrarian.
I do love the opening title track, again making my favorites list from them in terms of songs. It's definitely among their most anthemic, and it also, of course, helps that this is where they picked up the incredibly talented Chris Norris as a guitar player for the first time. But ultimately, I'm just not that impressed with this album as a whole. First and foremost, it is too long for what it is, with songs that I do not think justify their runtimes with far too much repetition. Some of the songs even go as long as 8 or even 13 minutes, but this is far from progressive music. Once more, plenty of killer riffs, especially on Oklahoma and Payphones and Pills, but at nearly 6 minutes for the latter, it's just not enough to keep me interested all the way through. You shave these down to like 3 minutes, and I feel like it would be much stronger for it. That hardcore spirit coming through. On the plus side, definitely greatly improved production, and when it's good, it cooks. I just wish the songwriting was tighter, so gonna put it at great tier. Then we got Undoing Ruin in 2005. Now, it almost feels like they took my advice after that last one, as this is a nice lean 38 minutes, with tracks averaging between just like 2 and 4 minutes, save for the closing track, and man, does it feel tight as a result. It's also produced by Devin Townsend, making for further gains in that department as well. He produced some of my favorite albums of this entire era. I remember hearing Convalescence and seeing the music video for the first time and getting so hyped. More great anthemic stuff that got instantly stuck in my head with the clean vocals and the hook. Great artwork too, that just feels very iconic for that era. So many great songs like With a Thousand Words, Sound the Surrender, These Fevered Times. This is a return to a very consistently quality album without a single dud. And I feel like they also really developed more personality on this album as well. Still bringing the heavy elements and excellent riffing, but adding more dynamics in both the vocals and soloing. So many standout choruses and moments in general, and they've also got meat grinders like This Will Outlive Us and District Divided. You can really feel that D beat just pulsating through you, and Chris Norris just killing it with the solos. This one has to go to perfection. Yo, we still have plenty more albums to go, but if you're enjoying the video, be sure to hit the like button, or dislike if you dislike, and comment below what are your favorites and least favorites. Let's get a conversation going. Where do you agree? Where do you disagree? But next up, we have Deliver Us in 2007. Another one produced by Devin Townsend, and the artwork also done by John Baisley of Baroness. Doomsayer is another incredible opener that really sets a high bar with that chill acoustic guitar slowly building until the vocals come in with that You are the only one. I also love Demons and Tunguska. The former was included in Guitar Hero 5. And as great as the solos were on the last album, these make all the rest look like child's play, with not only speed and technicality, but also the incredible harmonizing. It's an album almost like Pantera, where the solos are just, if not more memorable than the rest of the music. Frankly, I think this is their best guitar work, period, with more killer tracks like Sanctuary and Ethereal Drain and Fire in the Skies. Just listen to it. This is my personal favorite album from Darkest Hour overall. As much as I love Undoing Ruin, this just barely edges out, so it's going to perfection. And then we got the Eternal Return in 2009.
This is the end of a sickening tale of life, death and repeat.
Chris Norris unfortunately dropped off for this album, but Mike Kerrigan slides in pretty seamlessly, if with big shoes to fill. This album was produced by Brian McTiernan, who also produced the Mark of Judas, and it was their last release through Victory Records. Another all-around great album. It's super consistent, like, again, there's not a bad song on it. I will say that the high points don't quite hit as high as on those last two albums, and the soloing doesn't grip me in the same way, but the riffs are still great and the songs are infectious as ever. Personal favorites here: Devolution of Flesh, The Tides, Blessed Infection, Transcendence, and A Distorted Utopia. Slight step down, but very, very good. I think I'm going to put this one at great tier, but it has potential to move up. I'll say more on that later. Then we got The Human Romance in 2011. For some reason, I remember not liking this album when it came out, but on this latest re-listen, I definitely enjoyed it a lot more. The album was recorded with producer and Soilwork guitarist Peter Witchers, who also produced All That Remains, seminal The Fall of Ideals. And I think that brings out plenty of the usual high-energy melodeath aggression on tracks like Savor the Kill, Your Everyday Disaster, and Man and Swine. They do get a bit more melodic on this, though, with others like Love as a Weapon and Wound, which I have mixed feelings about in terms of the actual performance, especially those clean vocals. To me, they really hit that sweet spot on Deliver Us, and here the sappier kind of scream singing feels a bit more questionable. Like, Violent by Nature starts off so strong and heavy, but once that stuff comes in, it totally deflates it for me. This is the last album with drummer Ryan Parrish and bassist Paul Burnett. I'm going to put it at good tier. Then we got Darkest Hour in 2014. Now, this is definitely going for a more mainstream approach, and I mean, from a business standpoint, I get it, but I think at this point in the 2010s, this was still a losing move, considering people who wanted a cleaner sound had fallen in with what I call the more like haircore, metalcore bands like Bullet for My Valentine, which is to say that there's still plenty of their own sound here without getting nearly that corny. I think that Rapture and Exile, The Great Oppressor, and Infinite Eyes in particular strike a good balance of both sides, and John Henry's vocal performance is much stronger on this album on tracks like The Misery We Make, even if they don't crack my overall favorites for the band. He actually sounds a little bit like Chester Bennington on this album, I would say, and I also love these solo and little shifts on Anti-Axis and the always infectious D-beats and bass rumble on Lost for Life. Yeah, not my favorite, but not terrible either. I'm going to also put this one at good tier. Then we got the Godless Prophets and the Migrant Flora in 2017. What a 180 turn after more or less no longer caring about what used to be one of my favorite bands by this point, and I think it may be thanks in large part to the influence of Converge's own Kurt Ballou producing this time around. I don't think I've ever heard an album he had in hand in that I didn't like. And on top of that, we also get some guest spots here from Chris Norris, making not a full return to the band, but just helping out. I'd go so far to say that this may very well be their heaviest album, and I could not put it down when it came out. I was shocked at how good it was after those last two. The opener alone, Knife in the Safe Room, is enough to warrant some serious praise with those raging D-beats and disgusting bass tone.
Holy shit.
It's like melodic death metal, but with a pummeling hardcore twist. They ditched all the singing in favor of shredding, almost thrash-worthy riffs, and a return to incredible solos. Really, every song here is again worth the listen, but to name a few favorites: Timeless Numbers, Those Who Survived, Another Headless Ruler of the Used, and In the Name of Us All. Yeah, this one, it's going to fantastic, but I'm actually recording these albums in advance, but based on how I feel about the new album, I might graduate this to perfection. It's definitely top 3 at the moment, which brings us to Perpetual Terminal in 2024. So I was pretty excited going into this album based on the last one as well as the single, which was the pretty ripping opening title track. Unfortunately, this album is much more in line with the Human Romance and self-titled than the last one. Societal Bile kicks off on a promising D-beat-driven note, but soon after slows things down and leads into some more questionable scream singing. A Prayer to Holy Death also starts strong with those Undoing Ruin and Deliver Us vibes in the melodeath riffing before derailing into a pretty sappy milquetoast chorus. And those same problems continue into the Nihilist Undone, which is okay but also extremely forgettable, and especially One with the Void, which feels more like a failed attempt at one of Norma Jean or Under Oath's more brooding dramatic tracks. And for the record, I love when bands pull those things off, but it just does not work here in my opinion. More strange scream singing ruining New Utopian Dream, and then Mausoleum is the first time this band has pissed me off with acoustic. Like, they've used it so well in the past, but here it's just a generic campfire jam of an intro. The harmonized electric guitar leads after that are solid, but with so many better examples of that in their discography, it's like, why bother?
It's not worth it.
I do at least somewhat enjoy Love is Fear and its kind of We Are the Void energy, and my only regret is also a standout more in the vein of the previous record. The closer is also decent enough. If I'm being 100% honest, I'm disappointed, but that's okay because if the band and other fans enjoy it, they didn't just make this for me. I'm not that egotistical, but I've listened to this thing over and over again, hoping it would grow on me, and just so far, I don't really care for it at all. Again, if you disagree, comment below, but honestly, I think as of right now, this thing is going all the way to okay tier at the bottom. Y'all check out this playlist for more discography reviews of metalcore bands, and let me know again down in the comments, what is your favorite, your least favorite, where do you agree, where do you disagree? But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.